motion pictures. I always had an idea. I wanted to get a movie camera when I was a kid. Later on, I purchased a Bolex 16 millimeter and a good zoom lens. My name's Robert Pryor. I live in Post Falls, Idaho now. I'm a native of Spokane. Grew up in Cheney, Washington. About 1965 or so, I got interested I got the idea that I should produce some educational films for Spokane. And so my first production was Chief Spokane Garry.
A person characterized as being one of the most manly, humane, and likable Indian characters known to Northwest history. Yet, a man who died in poverty and obscurity, an outcast on the land of his birth. That man was Chief Spokane Garry.
I was always interested in history and local history especially, and I always felt that Spokane Gary had not really been addressed as a prominent historical figure in Spokane, or didn't get the credit he deserved. He actually had the first school in Spokane. It was for Indians, actually, out in Northwest Boulevard area.
After I had done the film, and then I thought, well, they were asking for suggestions for naming Spokane Gary. For naming the junior high school that would be out in the northeast part of town near Hilliard. Well, Gary had a home out in that general area, and after making this, I thought, well, I'll get a petition up and start circulating it in Spokane, copies of it. And then that's when the DAR chapter, Spokane Gary chapter of Daughters of American Revolution, invited me to show it to them, and then I got their support for circulating petitions, and then the school board took it.
Gary Junior High School, this is the dedication program from November 19th, 1970. About every 2 years I put out another film. Spokane River.
As continued progress is made in freeing the river of pollution, more and more beautiful homes appear on the banks of the river. Recreational opportunities are abundant.
The Columbia River.
The mighty Columbia River. The Columbia flows more than 1,200 miles from its source, Columbia Lake in British Columbia, Canada, to its mouth at Astoria, Oregon.
And then in 1970, it was about 100 years since the first settlers had come to Spokane. I produced the Spokane the First 100 Years, which traced the development of Spokane through 1870 to 1970.
And then one I didn't mention was the one called Nez Perce, Bring Us the Black Book, which I made in 1974 with a friend of mine, Greg Stanford, who has a doctorate in history from Washington State University. And it tells the story of Nez Perce Indians who traveled to St. Louis in 1831 to ask for missionaries to come out to the Nez Perce country. Funny, I did not keep a copy of this one. I did the one on the summer at Priest Lake. That's this one, Aquos Summer. It's a 14-minute film. It's just a fun film of summer activities at a lake, at Priest Lake, Idaho. We enjoy being near the water and on the water and in the water, and of course, most of all, being with family.
I have to give credit to my wife of 66 years. She stood for me making all these films and taking time and effort to do it. I'm sure she sat alone in the living room a lot of evenings when I was down there cutting all those hundreds of shots of films. It took a lot of time, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed making the films. I had no idea that My friend Leo O'Connor would come across it on YouTube, and it's been a pleasure to work with him and to have him digitize my films. I learned it all by hook or by crook and developed things myself that no one had ever explained to me or shown me, but I would say go to a good class in filmmaking and have fun.